Welcome to Healthy Skeptics, where we take a no BS approach to holistic health.
We're a mother-daughter duo who believe in redefining health by going beyond rigid protocols, detox fads, and restricted diets.
Here, we dig deep into root causes, challenging traditional and holistic medicine, and talk about what really works in today's world to help you feel your best.
Join us as we sift through the noise, tackle myths, and offer real insights into holistic health with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Hi, welcome back
to the Healthy Skeptics podcast.
Yes, and today, since this is our Valentine's Day episode, we wanted to talk about the vagina. I think it's a fun topic for Valentine's Day. We maybe don't have vagina on the mind, but other people
might have vagina on the mind,
and then we're more hyper aware of it.
Could be, yeah. Like, where's that romantic evening ending?
Yes.
Yeah. So I know some of the things we were looking at was like, but what was one of the things? Like, it's not supposed to smell like Bed Bath and Beyond.
Yes, but we'll talk. Yeah. That's funny.
Sorry.
Bath and Body Works.
Whoops.
But yeah, so we also wanted to play on the relationships today because
a play on
relationships. Yeah, because there is a relationship between your gut health and the health of your vagina, your vaginal health.
Yeah, like really tight relationship.
So we want to talk through that and how to support essentially both, but really,
well, really, what's the connection? Yeah. I think you may hear that around, and it's kind of what is the real connection here? What does it really mean that we say, oh, those two are connected? Because you're kind of, if you're thinking anatomically, you're like, let's see, how does that exactly work?
Yes.
They're two separate systems.
Mm-hmm.
But
but first we kind of wanted to start out the podcast with busting some myths about vaginal health. There's some funny ones that I had pulled up. And so just, talking through those. Yeah. And this is what you were talking about. But a big myth is that it's supposed to smell good. Like good from the standpoint of like roses or
like
flowers
a freaking
or
candle.
Vanilla or whatever. Like we're supposed to have this like sweet smell down there. And that's absolutely false. Like a healthy vagina actually smells very acidic.
Right.
And it's not bad.
No.
But it's not
but
like
there is a smell to it.
Yes, but it's not like some floral. I had this friend in high school, this guy friend in high school that used to say the funniest thing. It's not that kind of story, don't worry. But he would not admit that girls pooped. And so, he like couldn't handle the fact that
later you're telling me who this was.
And so he used to say the funniest thing. He's like, if girls poop, it's more like little peeps and it comes out smelling like roses. Thing. But that's kind of what I feel like people think about their vagina, that it should smell beautiful or whatever. But it's not. It should.
Yes,
it has a natural scent.
You know what? I wonder if that comes from the old, like, this is your flower. So it's like, I'm just saying that.
Did you ever say that to me?
No.
I don't actually ever remember you having a sex talk with me. Ever.
I don't think we sat down and had a specific
or
sex
you
talk.
Talking me through anything about my vagina. Ever.
Well, I'm sure I did.
No way.
Yes, I did. I talked to your friends about it, so I'm sure I talked to you about it. We used to have all kinds of conversations.
I guess. No, I do remember.
Yeah. We used to talk a lot with
when I was older.
Well, I'm sorry.
Once you went back to medical school, I think we talked a lot about a lot of stuff. But it wasn't, we didn't have a sex talk on us. It doesn't matter. Anyways, but maybe that's where it came from.
Well, I don't think it came, like I said, I don't think we sat down and I'm like, okay, we're going to talk about this. It was more conversations that just happened.
Sure. But the point being, you don't spray perfume down there. Don't have this expectation that it's supposed to smell really sweet or florally or anything like that, which kind of brings me to the second myth that drinking a bunch of pineapple juice, which we all did.
Are you serious? I had never heard that until you said that.
What?
No.
Oh my gosh.
No, because you know why? The only things that we ever talked about, douching was the big thing.
We'll get to douching. Okay. Yeah, but no, never heard. Juice? No. What about like garlic?
No.
Okay, so
unless
we're all
putting it
here making like pina coladas to
make
our...
That's why you were making pina coladas.
No, but they were that was a big thing. And if you guys are listening and you know what I'm talking about, we would like down pineapple juice. And what's funny is that pineapple juice in large amounts could like actually give you a little bit of diarrhea.
Probably some gas.
And gas.
Wow, that's what you want.
So don't be doing that either right before Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
If you have a special date, that's not the best way to go about it. I mean, but in reality, what you eat definitely impacts the health of, and can make you, I hate to say taste because you're staring at me as my mom, but it's like fresher.
Oh, okay.
But overall, as your overall diet.
Never heard it. Okay.
But it's true because your diet impacts the health. And so you can taste, smell better if you're
healthy,
a certain way.
If you're healthy,
but large amounts of pineapple juice before isn't going to make a big impact. And it's the same for guys, by the way. If guys are drinking that, it's not a thing. That's fun. And then getting to the douching.
Okay.
Don't douche. Don't steam. Your vagina cleans itself.
It's a self-cleaning oven. It just does its own thing. But
you call it an oven? I'm so glad you didn't do a sex.
Well, so I can think of that self-cleaning just as a cat. Oh my gosh. Oh. What were the things of themselves? That was where it went. So I'm sorry.
I have to edit some of this out. I'm actually kidding. Oh, okay. Just regain composure here. Okay. So anyways. Okay. To douching.
Okay.
But that is where discharge kind of comes from too. Because you're self-cleaning. Oh man, I think we're gonna need to skip past the rest of douching and move on.
Well, no, I was just gonna I won't go back to that. But what I was gonna say is, nothing, like not even soap, nothing should go down there to clean. You don't need to clean. That's just the whole point. That's the whole point.
You can, you're taking a shower and you're washing your body, mild soap running down your body, whatever. It's like the vulva, the outside, whatever. That's fine. Exactly. Nothing inside. We don't want to clean anything, which
on purpose
does kind of bring you to the discharge conversation, where discharge is totally normal. And we talked about this on a different podcast, but that is how your body cleans. And also it changes with hormonal shifts, and it should throughout the month. If you're still ovulating, it's still your discharge thickness, and it will get thicker or more stringy or things like that. And that's very normal. Where you want to be concerned is if it changes into a color that's not white, if it has a certain texture, any of those things.
It's kind of like, anything,
But discharge,
like anything I'm going to say now, I know, feel like,
but discharge doesn't mean you're dirty. I think when we were younger too, there was, you have discharge and you're like, oh my gosh, something's wrong.
Right.
Or I have an infection, or I'm not clean. Like, actually, it's a good thing.
Well, and to the other side of that, if you have never had you don't have any discharge ever.
Yes, then that's a problem. That's a problem too.
Then
something's not working, cleaning, doing what it needs to do.
Yeah, it's basically a microbiome, vaginal microbiome that's out of balance, and it's not able to do its job. Yeah, getting what it needs in order to do its job. So, what was another myth?
That your vagina will loosen over time or with sex.
Yeah.
And that's not true. It's an actual muscle, so it expands and contracts. That's why we're able to have babies. And actually, orgasms help to tone the muscle. So more orgasms, the better tone that muscle.
Do you know another thing about orgasm?
What? I don't know if I want to know. But yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that women who don't experience orgasms and they're trying to conceive the muscles actually help push that sperm
that
upward.
makes sense.
Yep. Yeah. So it's one of those things. It's another, like just another piece of the fertility conversation. Yeah. That, a lot of times are left out by your normal OBGYN. They're not asking those questions. So, yeah. But it's really interesting.
Yeah. But it's also from, yes, like the Kegel conversation, like, yes, that can help, but it's not entirely, like based on that.
We used to Kegels, right?
Yeah.
When I was going back in time.
Yeah.
It was like, we had phones, real phones, and people called each other and text each other. So, you were answering the phone constantly, or if you were at work, you were always answering a phone. So it was every time you answered a phone, do 10 Kegels. Like, it was like, so, because it was one of those things that everybody did all day, especially women. Everybody, all day, you were answering phone.
Wow.
And yeah, it was like every time you pick up the phone.
But it's not even about it. Like,
no, I'm just saying that was a thing.
Then that would, I mean, it does to a certain extent, but also like being sedentary, not moving at all, squats and lunges and different things like that actually help to tone.
Well, now you're talking about the whole pelvic floor.
Yes, but it helped. But yes, but the whole thing, right? And then also from a full overall health perspective, we have certain mineral balance that helps with muscle contraction and all of those things. So from a tightness perspective, and now there's plastic surgery that you can do, and they
the
say
laser
that,
surgery, the Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa? No, it's not the Mona Lisa. It's a different one.
I thought it was like the same thing they do for your abs, but they stick the wand up there and then it like tightens everything.
Yeah,
it's like a bunch of Kegels.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Is that
is it.
Anyways, so
I was trying to think there's a few different things that you can do. That whole, wow, you can take this, 60-year-old vagina and make it look 20.
Point being is that Kegel's fine, whatever, but actually the real MVPs, if you will, of toning the vagina is supporting the whole pelvic floor.
Yes.
So weightlifting, squatting, those things, and then hydration and mineral balance.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, that's the other one.
Okay.
And then
was there another one?
Yeah. So there was, you can get your pH right. And this will be the last one, and we can go in because I think this is a good segue into all of the other things.
Okay.
But that you can get your pH right with yogurt or garlic. So I think we should talk about that, which,
well, I think
you can't, and I mean it from the perspective of not eating it, but shoving it up there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. People are inserting yogurt or garlic into your vagina.
Right.
Which is
there's
a good thing. Let's not do that. But we're going to talk about how to actually improve your pH. And some of it is from a food perspective.
It is it's always from a food perspective.
Yes.
It's always from a food perspective.
But we absolutely can improve pH if you're ingesting yogurt and garlic. But we'll just kind of jump into.
I was going to say, from a what you're going to put in there from a medical standpoint.
Up there,
in there.
What are you talking about?
No, I'm saying like there are times when where vitamin C. I mean, different
suppositories.
Yes, different suppositories can be helpful in certain instances. So, I'm not saying don't ever do it, and especially if you're working with someone.
Yogurt.
No, I know.
You're going to shove food up your vagina. No. That's what I was talking about. People doing that to improve their pH.
No, people do a lot of things.
I'm not talking about for medical purposes, but
okay.
Okay, so that's why I said I think it'd be a good segue into talking about how the microbiome and what we eat, and how our gut health is
tied
to your vaginal. That's what I was saying. Microbiome.
Right.
So, because it is separate. So we have a vaginal microbiome, we have a gut microbiome, but they are very tightly connected.
Yes, they are. For many reasons. Mm-hmm. Which one do you want to start with? Physical reason?
Well, no, I mean, we'll just
go down the list.
Essentially, we have the gut microbiome, which is trillions of bacteria. Some
Very
are
diverse.
beneficial bacteria. Some are what we would call more opportunistic bacteria that you need in smaller amounts, but can definitely take over and become not beneficial bacteria.
Right.
And then we also have,
I was going to say, you
bad
may also know them as bad and good bacteria.
yeah, but I think there are beneficial, opportunistic, and then there is a category of bad, but that would be more like from a parasite pathogen perspective,
Right.
which 9 times out of 10, those pathogens are just opportunistic bacteria that have
Overgrown.
had space. But your microbiome, all of these bacteria are responsible for proper digestion, the absorption of all your nutrients, your immunity, almost your entire immune system is housed within the gut, and the microbiome is responsible for that. So they keep inflammation in check. So really important. Now, then you can kind of move.
Well,
go ahead.
I was going to say, no. So you talk about, the connection. So why is that important? So what, my immune system's in my gut, but it's like, that's helping keep that other microbiome, that vaginal microbiome, nice and healthy and not have overgrowth there, because your immune system is the one that's like the police. They're going around making sure everybody's staying where they need to be. So, so if you have a weakened immune system, then you're going to see some of those things that people deal with all the time, whether it's
consistent infections. That's where the constant infections come from, or BV. Or, so you have these overgrowth.
UTIs,
yes.
Reoccurrent yeast infections.
Reoccurrent UTIs is a big one. That's a
big one.
And that's really an immune system dysfunction too, that you keep getting these infections.
Yeah.
So I think the MVP, if you will, there's
in the vagina.
So you have your gut microbiome, and you have lots of different bacteria that are great and beneficial and need to be in a good amount. In the vagina, your MVP bacteria is lactobacillus, and lactobacillus is what keeps your pH on point, and also all the other, basically that entire microbiome happy. That's where putting yogurt, people are like,
lactobacillus.
Yes. It's going to connect.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sure. I can just see people putting Yoplait up there with no lactobacillus whatsoever.
Yeah, but that's the thing. So they think that there's a connection between the lactobacillus, because that's a food that's very high in lactobacillus. So in order to improve my vaginal microbiome, I'm going to just put it directly up there. And that's not exactly how it works.
No.
But essentially, when lactobacillus starts to become lower in number in your vaginal microbiome, that's when other sneaky things get passed. So we get other infections or other bacteria that get introduced that now no longer lactobacillus isn't policing anymore.
Well, I was going to say, so you can think of like, okay, so where does that bacteria come from?
Yeah.
Like, why am I being exposed to it? Okay, sex, that would be one. That's, anything out here in the world that you want to put in there, whether it's sex toys, anything that you're going to be doing. Well, I'm sorry. But it's like all of those things have bacteria on them because they're not in a sterile environment before they go in. So there's one way you're going to be exposed.
Yep.
Another way,
like we've had clients that are like, oh, it's my boyfriend. It's like, every time I have sex, I get the UTI. And it's like, well, actually, that's more of an indication of your own vaginal microbiome not being able to handle the external bacteria coming into your environment.
Yes, your pH.
pH
that vaginal pH.
Yes. So anyways, and go on. Continue.
I don't know where I was then. What was I saying?
Other ways that it can be introduced.
Oh, okay.
The highway.
Yeah, we do hear that a long way. Yeah, there's a very short highway between your rectum and your vagina. Very short. And so
less than an inch.
Yeah, and so I know I'm showing it like people can see it and we're talking, but so if you think about if your gut is unhealthy, and then the stool that's coming out of the gut, not only, you could have the most perfect hygiene possible and always wipe in the correct direction and all of the thing, you're showering, the whole thing, but still bacteria can move from that one spot to the other. And so it's really, easily transmitted. And so if you do have a weakened microbiome in the vagina, then you are going to be introducing those types of bacteria as well. As like we're thinking about some of the big guys, like an E. coli, for example,
or a candida,
or a candida,
which is the yeast,
right?
It's a big yeast guy.
Right.
So if you're getting a lot of those yeasty UTIs, that's a big one.
Well, I was going to say too, and on the fertility side of things, when you think about pH, your pH can be very hostile to sperm. And so if your vaginal pH isn't in that range, it's, what,
3 to 8,
3.8 to 4,
something.
5 or something. Yeah. But if it's not in that range, then you're creating an environment where that sperm isn't going to survive long enough to make it up into the fallopian tube and to try and find an egg. So that's another thing to be looking at. I don't think we do that either in fertility. Take a good look at what that vaginal pH is.
Yeah. And then to the other point of the fact that one of the other things that impacts our vaginal microbiome from the gut is the gut bacteria, the estrobolome, which is newer term.
I think a couple years, 2-3 years ish.
Yes. But essentially there's a set of bacteria that are housed in your gut, in your microbiome, that are responsible for estrogen metabolism. And it's called the estrobolome.
Estrobolome. Yes.
Thank you.
BLOME.
And if those bacteria aren't supported, then your body does have a harder time metabolizing estrogen, which means your estrogen levels could either be too high or too low, or just definitely not fluctuating the way that they should be. And so that can lead to vaginal dryness. It can lead to, again, painful sex. Then we get more yeast overgrowth,
cycle
irregularities, all those things. So there is also a connection to your estrogen and how your estrogen is metabolizing, which happens. The gut is a big component of that. Your digestive system is a big component of how we metabolize estrogen, which directly impacts our vaginal health.
Right.
So we have,
and then you can pull in, there would be just a tiny bit of stress conversation that would come into that as well, just because of the whole estrogen connection. So, there's quite a few things that can impact the health of your vagina that you don't even really think about being connected.
Yes. Correct.
So,
and the cool thing is because we're starting to understand the importance of the gut microbiome and learning all of these connections over the last 5 to 10 years, we test, and stool testing has been very popular, and we use it in our practice, and it's great. We get a big picture of how your digestion is looking, what your microbiome looks like. Are there any infections or overgrowth or pathogens or parasites? We get to look for inflammation. There's tons.
I was going to say, you even look at how are you digesting fat?
Yes.
What's your fiber intake? So many different pieces of that whole digestive process. It's really kind of cool.
And if your gut is not absorbing, if your gut is not absorbing, or you're not getting the nutrients from your food because of your gut health, that's going to directly impact, again, your vaginal health, but also your hormones and all the other connections that we're making. So,
I think so. Now you're talking about testing.
Yeah.
So we do gut testing, and some of the things that, we could talk, and there is, you can do a test to see the balance of your vaginal microbiome as well. And it's an at-home test. They do them in the clinics. I don't know what clinics, probably more functional clinics, but anyway, but there are tests that you can do at home where you're just going to do a swab, and send it in and get a picture. But it's kind of like, why would you do one or the other? If we're talking so much about this gut vaginal connection, it's like, well, what are the instances where we should do a gut test, or we should be looking at doing more of a vaginal microbiome test. So, it's like, and so I think when you're looking at, it's easier to talk about the vaginal side, but when you're looking at, I have recurrent infections, I tend to have yeast infections, I have BV, I have all these things happening in my vagina, that's where I would say you want to be testing and seeing what's going on there specifically. And I would also add, I probably would do it in conjunction with
a gut
test.
Yes.
Because
I don't think there's ever a situation where you would test the vaginal microbiome without testing the gut.
Well, marketing would tell you differently.
Yes, but because that'd just be dumb. You'd be missing key components.
Right.
But there are lots of instances where you wouldn't necessarily need the vaginal test.
No.
But I think both, when you're struggling with those types of things, can be really helpful. It just gives you a nice, clear picture of the connections and what's happening.
Right.
And where to really throw your support behind, because we can sit here and give you generalized information of how to support a healthy gut that you've probably heard, which work. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like, it does work to eat more fiber, to include more fiber in your diet, to include more prebiotic fiber. So things like garlic, here's the other piece, right?
Right.
Garlic, onions, asparagus, artichokes, inulin, and chicory root, like all of those things, nice prebiotic fiber. And then also other resistant starch fibers are really great for feeding good bacteria. And then you have your probiotic foods. So eating more probiotic foods, which give you the direct lactobacillus or the direct bifido or direct strains of probiotics to help keep that populated. Also, stress impacts this all because we have like the first line to get into your gut is your digestive system. And when we are highly stressed or have been in a state of chronic stress, that digestive system is impacted. Our stomach acid it lowers. And now we've opened up our system. Stomach acid, it defends us against bacteria, pathogens,
virus, everything. Yeah.
So now we have lower stomach acid now that the microbiome is open to receiving a lot more of those pathogenic things. So there's obviously a whole connection. So we can go in and give you, it's generalized information, but it's good information about how to support digestion, how to support your stomach acid levels, how to continue to eat these good foods, and they will make a difference.
They will.
But
it's
when but when we test, sometimes intervention is necessary if there's eradication that needs to happen. We can just get so much more specific about the support because we're all overwhelmed anyways. So if I'm going to go make changes, I want to make sure that I'm picking the one or two things that are going to have the biggest impact and throwing my effort behind those things. And I think that's what testing does in this situation.
Right.
But yeah, so,
and I also would say, like, don't get me wrong. We love tests. We like testing. We like data. We like knowing, like I said, we can be very specific, and attack things that, instead of doing like a bomb approach, we can kind of get in there and, really, really be specific about what we're going to do. But I would say because these two are so tied together, because the gut health is so tied to your vaginal health, if you're kind of going, well, where would I start? I would still start with your gut health. And, probably 8 times out of 10, what you do to change that gut health is going to make a difference in your vaginal health. And you probably won't need to go on and do another test. If at the end of correcting your gut test, you're still looking at what's going on
a little bit,
then I would suggest going, oh, well, this would be a great add to find out what little piece, what tweak, what is something that we need to do and get in there. Again, very specific and correct. And so, we're not sitting here going, oh yeah, go out and get go out and get a test, go out and get a vag test. Whatever,
no, but it's a cool tool that we now have access to that I think is, and we're going to continue to learn more about these things,
especially about the estrobolome,
which is,
it's really kind of cool.
It is very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
That we have a whole set of bacteria that's just for our estrogen.
I know.
So I think just overall, again, just from a where to start perspective, if you're doing some of these basics where you're supporting digestion, and what I mean by that is, so we have steps, right? Step 1, digestion, which is going to be things like your meal timing, your schedule, how you're eating. Are you eating in a rush? Slowing down. Your minerals play a huge role in digestive function. So are your sodium and potassium levels out of whack? Is your zinc out of whack? These are all minerals that play a really big role in your stomach acid production and how you break down food and how you use that food efficiently. So there's a whole big step up here that I would focus on first, and then dive deeper into some of these gut things. Right. So first focus on digestion, and even you could, in focusing on digestion, you're going to improve your body's ability to absorb nutrients and help to recalibrate your gut bacteria just in that alone. And then you can move on to doing and even focusing on like high fiber foods and what are the foods that I need to intake, but it doesn't even need to be step one. Right. First need to correct digestion. And we find
eating hygiene.
With our clients that making these shifts have improvements of 75 to 80%.
I know.
Before you even get to the gut. But if you skip that part, which a lot of functional people will skip that part and go straight to
testing. And then throwing supplements.
Then we throw the probiotics, we do the big stressful eradications. We've never addressed the fact that your digestion blows. And so all of a sudden that's not sustainable. So you maybe feel good for a month or two and then you're back to square one, which happens all the freaking time.
It really does.
So the order matters.
Right. But just, you know, so that would be, I mean, even if you are experiencing some issues with your vaginal health, really looking at, you know, go upstream, as we say, but like look above that, look at the pieces of your digestive process, like look at your gut first, because that's probably where you're going to find the biggest corrections come from. And not just in, you know, perhaps your, you know, how you feel, like no bloating and gas and all those kinds of things. Gosh, now I don't have dryness and I'm, you know, like, and it does smell like a bunch of roses.
It's never going to smell like a bunch of roses.
All right. It just doesn't smell. How about that? But, you know, it's like, you know, you'll probably see those changes, and then you'll see other improvements in your whole body's ability to do different things.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if you're struggling with frequent infections, UTIs, yeast infections, BV, any of those things, guaranteed those aren't your only symptoms.
Right.
You could probably go back and say, yeah, I am bloated. I do have a lot of gas. I'm not pooping regularly. What is happening? And then we go, well, stress is impacting your digestion and now you're not absorbing your nutrients and your estrogen's not metabolizing well, and so on and so forth. So it's always about, looking further upstream, and sometimes the simplest changes of just supporting digestion, making sure you're wiping front to back, hydrating with minerals, giving your body good mineral support. So potassium, sodium, electrolytes, those things are really important. Figuring out what's stressing the body from a lifestyle perspective and also from an internal perspective. So we still need to be doing all these basics. Is the point.
It is the point.
And then
that helps you have a good vaginal defense system that will keep you happy. And
but once you've been doing the basics for 3 to 6 months, then dive into testing. Then get really particular and specific, because that's going to come clean up the 20-25% that's left over. And now from that point on, you have sustainable health and patterns and behaviors, and it works forever. You don't have to come back and be like, well, that didn't, it only lasted for X amount of time. So this Valentine's Day, if you want to do something good for your vagina, you know, I'd say start with digestion and go from there. So that was Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day.
Well, happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, why not? And
anyway, okay.
We'll see you next time.